Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Pick Swap Podcast. Man, an exciting game last night. Me and Sean are fired up. We've been yelling at each other for the first couple of minutes before we started recording. So, Sean, how you feeling, brother?
Yeah, man, best win of the season by far, I think. I mean, crazy anytime we're winning a game without Joel Embiid and just in the fashion that it happened, the grit, the everything it took. Tyrese Maxey just is awesome. Just I can't say enough about this guy. I was gassed up. I think that's by far the best win of the season, and I'm hyped up.
Yeah, the only ones that come to mind aside from that is the Warriors, the win at home against the Warriors. But that's like the only other game where I felt like they were really had a complete game. I mean, that was with Joel, obviously. So I don't know, man. Last night was crazy from start to finish. They got out to a hot start. Maxey comes out, scores 11 points in the first quarter. Him and Tobias Harris just basically took over offensively in that first half. And then they ended up combining for 64 of the team's like half of their points, 50% of the points came from both Maxey and Harris. I don't know where do you even want to start here? What should we talk about first?
Yeah, luckily there's a lot of good stuff we got to go into. I mean,
Yeah.
I'll start off a little bit. I don't think it's got enough notoriety as Andre Drummond last night. I mean, absolutely terrific game. He ended with 16 points, 23 rebounds, 5 assists,
Yeah.
2 steals, 3 blocks, 10 offensive rebounds, which is absurd. It just
Yeah.
uh, when we talk about like the comparison from Dwight Howard to Andre Drummond, because they are very similar in kind of the roles that they've been signed to this team for, but they're in such different playing fields for the career arc than what they have in the tank with everything. And this year, from Drummond's perspective, is absolutely looked at as like a 1 year. I'm here and then I want to cash out and get a little bigger deal and climb back into like the starting center caliber that he believes he is. And last night was an example of why he can be that guy. I mean, he did the little things. He did what he was supposed to. He didn't do too much. I was thrilled with what I saw from Drummond. That effort on the boards was like refreshing, and that's against a Grizzlies team who came in the number one rebounding team in the NBA. Very good rebounders. Steven Adams is legit. Jerron Jackson's huge. Got athletic guys. Brandon Clark huge, and Drummond held his own. He made some impactful plays. He showed the effort, and this is just like a preview. I guess like a appreciation of what we have as a backup there, because I think from Drummond's perspective, he signed here expecting to play more, and it's a great sign that he hasn't had to with how much Embiid has been able to play. And obviously the rest day well earned after 21 straight playing at a ridiculously high level. I think I was happy to see him rest, and even better that they were able to secure the win. So I'm glad we saw that out of Drummond.
Yeah, man. It was like you said, refreshing. And when you look at his stat sheet and you see the first stat is 42 minutes played.
Mm-hmm.
Just thinking about 42 Dwight Howard minutes like is enough
You don't
to
get it.
to give you nightmares. You just it doesn't happen. He wouldn't have lasted on the court. He would have fouled out well
Yeah.
before that, or gotten two technicals or whatever. It was not to slander Dwight. There's a lot of love there, but Andre Drummond just at this point is just such a better player, and much better at the job that they're asking him to do. 23 rebounds. It seems like every time he starts, that's the type of rebounding performance he puts on. But like you said, a lot of that responsibility fell on him last night. The Sixers are not a good rebounding team, like we've highlighted over the last couple of weeks. And on top of that, the Grizzlies are a very prolific rebounding team. So coming into that game, it's not a good matchup on the boards. And Andre Drummond was able to kind of even the scales. So, big shout out to him. 5 assists as well. It's he's a fun player. He's a weirdo. It seems like he's a bit of like just kind of a quirky dude.
Yeah.
But he seems like in a lot of ways too, like being a good teammate. It seems like Andre Drummond is a very good teammate, and everything we've heard from the guys around him, like they really like him, and he seems to harbor those vibes like they've been talking about. So, aside from that, if you want to let's talk about Tyrese Maxey because it's hard not to. He's dude like just everything about him right now is we're talking about like all-star caliber players, right? Like he went toe to toe with John Morant last night. Maxey finishes
Yeah.
with 33 points, 8 assists, 13 of 23 from the field, 6 of 7 from the free throw line, 4 blocks. Like, dude, what can he do? He didn't shoot great from three, but he made one off the dribble. Like, he just took control in the game, and he looked so comfortable on all three levels. So just like highlight some of that performance from last night.
Yeah, he looks like a different player when he's just handed the keys to the offense. And I mean, I don't want to dive too much into where there's room to grow alongside Embiid, but like when we see what he's capable of yesterday, it's awesome. Like the pace and space that they played with, like The game time bucket, which I retweeted talking about the spacing in that play, which they went small for that, surrounded with shooters, and just to see him drive, crazy finish around Jaron Jackson, his finishing ability is absurd around the rim, and I would argue him and Ja are two of the best finishers in all of the NBA. And I mean, first off, let's just take a step back and acknowledge that he went toe to toe with Ja Morant, who is the NBA All-Star starter for the West, number 2 overall pick, guy who has been a legitimate like franchise centerpiece and a guy that is one of the most fun players to watch in the NBA. I mean, I had a blast watching him last night. Just how crafty he is with the way he attacks the rim, the head fakes, the ball fakes, the jukes, every like little way he creates separation, and just some ridiculous finishes on his end. So I'm glad the Sixers did not get discouraged by that, kept fighting. And Maxey, I mean, the kid's just not afraid of the moment. He's not afraid of anybody. He steps up, and it's just so cool. Like we've been super in on Maxey since like we drafted him and leading up to the draft, but I just can't he just continues to exceed my expectations for him and continues to flash things that I think is so cool. And I just flat out believe in this kid. Like I just flat out believe that he can continue to grow, continue to be, and he's the franchise. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, man, it's hard to say enough about it, but like, and one last night. Let's start there. And one on that last layup. But like, you saw the finishing ability around guys like Steven Adams,
Yeah.
around Jaren Jackson Jr., around Brandon Clark, around these big guys, Kyle Anderson. I mean, like he had to guard Desmond Bane because Thibault was on Morant, so a little bit of a struggle there. But because Desmond Bane had a great game as well, and they're just not a great matchup for him defensively. But when you talk about his offense, and they started to, at first he was getting right down to the rim. He got the quick points in the first quarter, and then they adjusted. And this is what the biggest thing that I loved from Tyrese last night was they adjusted. Steven Adams started like hanging way back on those screens and giving him a ton of space. And what did he do? Did he go run into Steven Adams and try to throw up some crazy shots? He's able to do that, and he did it on occasion, but he was hitting floaters and pull-up jumpers and, manipulating the defense, and then, using that to his advantage to get other players open. And that's really where I think I've seen the biggest uptick in his game, is the ability to adjust on the fly and, score in a variety of ways. Like he hit a floater from behind the free throw line.
Yeah.
Like 1 foot. That's not a regular shot. Regular NBA players aren't really making that with proficiency, and he's doing it. And he does it confidently. And then, he maneuvers around the lane, hits that sidestep jumper. He hit the baseline jumper in the second half. Like it's hard to even actually gather. Like I tweeted out the video of him and kind of his highlights of the 33 that he dropped. And it's just like, dude, he has it all. He has it all in the bag. It's sidestep threes, step back threes, pull up jumpers, floater. The floater game is unreal. And then, like you said, his finishing ability, the Euro steps the baseline up and under right after a jaw. Like you said, unafraid, man. He's just, that last night was as good as I felt about him. Even though I've always been, like you said, we've always been high on Maxey, and even last night, just made it even better. And then the last play, I really want to talk about that last play. Heads up, great play by Matisse Thybulle to just 100%. Even if Maxey wasn't able to get to that ball, Thybulle throwing it to the backcourt, it ends the game. It ends the game. Just a really great play, and I think people are paying attention to that, and a lot of people notice that. But I think that really needed to be highlighted. Just him making such a great play, and then Maxey playing into the crowd. It was a lot of fun. So I just hard not to say everything you can about Maxey and his game last night.
Yeah, totally. And there's a little bit of Matisse rubbing off in Maxey too, with the 4 blocks. He's gotten so much better defensively, instinctually, with reading where shots are going off, where guys are going, which is impressive. And I mean, that finish and the jump in the crowd and the hype up and Seth Curry walking on the court with the towel and everything, that's just such a moment, such a key moment for me. I really do think last night was everything about it. Joel Embiid running out the tunnel, celebrating. Everything about it, last night was that moment for me. This was a real, I think, turning point win for the team, which is kind of crazy considering how hot they've already been. But this was a statement from the rest of the team that's saying we're here to compete. We're not just being dragged by Joel. We're not just being backpacked by Joel. We're here to hoop. We're here to play, and we're ready. We don't care who's here, who's not. That we're showing up every single night. And I mean, for Maxey himself, like I just feel like proud watching him play, which is I
Yeah.
know it's weird to say, but it's just like there's a joy that I get watching him play basketball and just the happiness with the way he does it, the way he goes about his business, and just so skilled, so wise, and just beyond his years. And it's ridiculous to think this guy's 21 years old. It really is.
Yeah, there's so many times last night where I found myself standing up and just be like, he is so goddamn good. Like
Yeah.
he's too good to be who he is. Like just too much good about him. Um, like at this early on in his career, this young of an age, like you said. And then like to point out everyone else, we talked about Drummond, we talked a lot about Maxey, and then you look at Tobias Harris,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh
Shut up.
wow, Tobias Harris balled out last night too. He had 31, 12 of 25, 2 of 5 from 3, made all 5 of his free throws. Like he was a bucket last night, and he was a reliable bucket last night. And I pointed out, I wrote a recap. It's like we've seen it in stretches, we've seen it in times. Last night, and he had another 30-point game earlier this month as well. This is the first time in a consistent stretch he's been playing the best basketball of the season so far in this month, and specifically over the last couple weeks. He looks like the old Tobias. He looks like the Tobias of last year, getting to his spots. He's looking confident. I want to see him talking shit again. Like, remember last year he was running up and down the court, yelling at people, telling people I'm an all-star when he got snubbed. Like, I want to see that Tobias again. He's looked like, I don't know, kind of miserable at times this year. And maybe it's him being on the trading block and everyone kind of talking about Tobias the way that they have been. But man, he's been very, very good. And I don't want that to be passed over with the great performance from Maxey, because they don't win that game and they're not even close if Tobias doesn't have the game that he has.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he was the motor for the team for the most part, just consistent scoring. He said Andre Drummond came up to him before the game, challenged him to get 30, and he got it. He did it.
Yeah.
He's been more decisive. He's looked better. He's cut out a lot of what the like unnecessary Tobias. I think like when we get into like the post ups that don't work, when that turn into like the fadeaway contested twos, and when he's just doing the like spinning around the basket thing where he's trying to angle, there just hasn't been as much of that. It's been quick. Like that's when Tobias Harris is at his best. Catch and shoot, one dribble and shoot, get to his spot, attack the rim. And like this was a game that I thought Tobias might get swallowed up a little bit when we just think about like the athleticism of the Grizzlies, particularly Jaron Jackson Jr., which was the matchup for a decent part, but he had some other rotations which I didn't expect as much. But like Toby did his thing. He got to his spots. He showed his skill. He is still very skilled as a basketball player, which I don't think is appreciated enough. And I'm happy to see him kind of turn it up a little bit and get back to the Tobias that we hope. I think the deadline passing will be a very calming moment for Tobias, assuming he's still here. I think that will help regain his confidence even more and continue on the streak. But I definitely think the lingering fan issues and trade rumors and everything hanging over hasn't been great for him.
Yeah, and I mean, understandably, right?
For sure, yeah.
There's been a lot of talk around Tobias this year, and again, like when we're talking about it, are there better options out there? Probably, especially for the money that he's getting paid. But when you think about Tobias and who he is to this team, he's really important, and I think a lot of these guys look up to him. When you talk about, Matisse has always talked about how important Tobias was in his rookie season, and Maxey's talked about it, and all these young guys have talked about him. Every time they're asked about a veteran, they answer with Tobias. And like, while that is just kind of I don't know, it may seem frivolous to a lot of fans, that means a lot in a locker room. From what we can assume, it means a lot that he's there for them. It means a lot that he's mentoring them. And then when he can play like this and be out there and prove like, hey, don't forget about me. I can fill it up too. And I thought that was really nice to see. And again, like in classic Tobias fashion, it was quiet. Like it was almost a quiet 30, which it's hard to get a quiet 30 in the NBA. It's classic of him to get the quiet 20, but to give you a quiet 30 is impressive in its own right. And he did exactly that. I think he's looked better in the catch and shoot, is specifically on the 3-point line. Like he's done a way better job at just like the motion just looks smoother. It doesn't look like he's hesitating or thinking about it. He's just catching, and when he's open, he can knock it down. He has a nice jumper. And he shoots, like we talked about this earlier in the year. Like we were frustrated because he wasn't pulling those shots and he wasn't pulling them confidently. Like he's a 40% shooter from 3. Like he should be shooting those shots confidently. He makes a lot of them. So I don't know. I was really just impressed and encouraged by Tobias last night.
Yeah, definitely. And to circle it back to the win as a whole, I guess what makes it so cool to me last night is when we think about like legitimate wins that the Sixers team has compiled and stuff, like they got the Grizzlies' best effort last night. This is a legitimately good Grizzlies team, and they showed up to play. I mean, like Ja dropping 37, Desmond Bane 34. They didn't shoot great from deep, but outside of that, like Jaron Jackson played very well. This was like a good performance from this Grizzlies team, and the Sixers answered every call. They held control just about the whole game. There was never that like meltdown moment that personally, like watching, I was a little bit waiting for and worried it was going to come, where the Grizzlies went on a run that the Sixers were unable to answer. But they did. They answered every call. They held control. They even were down late, down in overtime, started down in overtime, all that, and just found ways to fight through, found a way to win. And that matters to me. Like there's a resiliency in this team that just I haven't seen in past years, and especially even I would say throughout this whole Embiid Simmons core, I just haven't seen the identity of this team of just kind of like rolling with the punches and just the willingness to get up again, and that matters a ton and it's huge. And last night got me excited for the future. It made me feel I don't want to take too much from one win, but it made me feel like we're closer than I think like I have prior to last night.
Yeah, I think so too. And it's easy to it's easy to over and underreact to a game like this. I
Yeah.
think to just be like, all right, it's just a win. I think it's more than just a win, but I don't think it's like it's closer to team defining than it was just a win. If I can put it in a range, you know what I mean? So
Hmm.
I don't know, man. Like, and Curry sucked. Curry was bad all night. 4 of
Yeah.
15, 1 of 8 from three. He didn't score until the fourth quarter. Like, you didn't get a Curry effort. You didn't have Embiid. You didn't even have Furkan, who like I know has been not great, but still, a guy that can handle the ball, a guy that can shoot. You didn't have any of those guys. Charles Bassey
Didn't look
played a
great.
lot.
Bassey
Didn't
did
look
not look
great. He
great.
struggled, but
Uh,
he's your backup.
Yeah, Isaiah Joe and Danny Green, I think, deserve a shout out. Both, I think, Joe with the 2 4-point plays, which is ridiculous. He had 10 points in
Yeah.
like his first 4 minutes on the court, which he ended with 10. So a little disappointed beyond that, but he's not afraid to sling it, which I love. And Danny Green, I like seeing Danny Green kind of reviving himself a little bit since he's healed up from whatever lingering injuries he's been dealing with. The hip was the latest thing, but he lets it fly. He just does. He spaces the floor. He does stuff that matters. Even late in the game, in overtime, he ended up one-on-one with Ja, like in a crunch time possession, got
Yeah.
the stop, did his job. He played 25 minutes last night, which is that's awesome. Like I would love to see Danny Green in a shrunken role. He can still really help this team, I think. And I think in these past couple games with the minutes limit, and I think he's helped them. So I'm happy to see Danny Green bouncing back too.
Yeah, and I think like again, when we're talking about this roster and what they may or may not do going forward, like I think again, like we can talk about this, going forward a little bit more. I also want to shout out Niang. I love George Niang.
Yeah,
He might be like my favorite non-major player on this team. Like he's so
a
much fun,
minivan.
and he scored 8 points. So like not a ton. Like him and Green had 8 points. Isaiah Joe had 10, but like he made 2 of 5 or 2 of 4 from deep, but he made big shots, and he loves that shot. He wants
Love
to
talking shit.
he loves talking shit, and he's going to like it is like right on cue. He makes the shot, he turns around, and the first person he sees he's gonna yell at. And I love that. And I love that.
Yeah.
And I think that's again something I don't think the Sixers have had enough of over the last couple of years. And then when you talk about like Thibault was good in the first quarter and then defensively, and then Ja kind of just, did what Ja does, and Ja's been doing that to everyone. So it's hard because I think I want to talk about the foul calls
Okay.
quickly because there were some bad ones. Also, to go to your point, I don't know. I wanted to know if there's ever been a team that started an overtime period down by one. Like, has an
Yeah,
overtime period in the NBA ever started without an even score?
I'm gonna guess that there has been a scenario like this before. I don't know off the top of my head. I can look that up. I'll try and look that up. But from a referee perspective, like there was a lot of contact on Curry in that last fourth, him dribbling down the court. The
Yeah,
replay they kept showing, it was frustrating me. I thought the foul was before that. I thought it was on the
yeah,
floor as Curry was dribbling, and they kept showing the shot. And like I didn't think there was a foul there, but I think there was body on the floor that did earn a foul before that. I didn't get a good second look at that. I don't know if somebody else did, but I, from a referee perspective, like I understand letting that go because you don't want to decide the game on a foul call like that. But if you let that go, you have to hear out Doc for whatever he's going to yell at you. And they gave him the T. Doc definitely got his money's worth, especially after the fact. He did not stop. So, I mean, well earned technical. But I think from a ref, you're kind of, if you decide not to call that, which I totally get, you got to just, you can't be putting them at a disadvantage. But shout out the Sixers. They overcame it. So all good.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I thought that was funny. I mean, of course it would happen to the Sixers, but I was just talking about like in the fourth quarter, there were some questionable non-calls and calls. Like I have a problem. I think Ja is great. I think what he's been able to do this year is incredible. What I don't like about the way that he's officiated is that he gets into the lane around all these guys and he throws himself around
For
and he
sure.
makes incredible circus shots around it. But he is throwing himself into Andre Drummond and then getting the contact and then using that to make the shot or throw up a shot. That's just as bad as like the Trey Young pump fake and jump into people. Like to me, that's just as bad.
Uh,
He gets in.
so Mike, I guess my counter to that for what I see for Ja, what I mean, first off, one of the like best athletes
Yeah,
probably in NBA history ever, and I think a lot of his like scoring is his what he does is basically jump and just he counts on like I'm hanging in the air longer than you, and like you see him
yeah,
shoot it like right before he hits the ground a lot of times, and that's all him like basically waiting, just being like I know I'm staying up here longer than you can, and that's what I'm
yeah,
doing. I do think he gets bailed out with calls a lot. I don't think it's as bad as Trey. I think the Trey Young stuff's way cheaper to me, and the fact that
yeah.
like when I see Ja do it, I see him creating his own shot and doing it in that fashion. When I watch Trey Young do the cheapy thing, it's him creating the foul, which to me I do think is a subtle difference.
That's a fair point. I just mean like there was two or three drives in that fourth quarter where it was like one he traveled on one of them, which they didn't call, but
He did. He
you
did.
know he traveled. And there's another one where just like he came in and he got in the lane and he was surrounded by three guys and he saw a slight opening, just threw himself through that opening, swings his arm, throws the ball up. It's hard to really like pick apart his game at all because he was incredible last night, and he's been able to do that so often this year. He's like damn near an MVP candidate this season, which great on him. I think the Grizzlies are a really fun team
Yeah,
as well. I don't like playing against them. They're not fun to play against, and they're another team that just never gives up.
for sure.
Desmond Bane was great. I think kind of crazy to think he was drafted even after Tyrese. So two of the best steals in that draft went head to head last night again. So I don't know, man. It's hard to just like to quantify it. It's just an incredible win, and one I think that they can hang their hat on, especially to close out a month where they were one of the best teams in the league in this month, and they're climbing up power rankings. You're talking about Joel Embiid MVP candidates. Like I don't know. It's strange. They're what a game back of
Half
first
a game.
place,
Half a game.
half game back.
Yeah,
Like we and I know this for sure, especially me. I did not see this coming. If I'm being completely honest, I did not see this being the way. If you told me in September that the Sixers would be a half game back of first place in the Eastern Conference in February, at the start of February, I would have been very, very surprised.
Yeah, we're now 50 games into the season. Like we're now like a legitimate section into the season. Like we're
Yeah,
closing in on like crunch time and seeding wise. The East is so tight still that
yeah,
like the seedings are all going to be kind of scattered still and set. But for them the Sixers to keep hanging in there, keep fighting, like to me that's a testament of just like the will of this team. The way Joel Embiid has just like I guess brought out the most in this team. Like I really feel like there's just been an attitude switch this year. There's been like a like just a more resilience, more like we're going out to ball, and like we just don't see as much of like the lapses, the lack of energy. And there's still moments for sure. Like there's still games where they don't quite have it, but there has been like more ability to flip the switch and just compete on a nightly basis. And I do think that's a testament to Embiid's will. And I like people can bring up I mean, they're 4-11, I think is their record without Embiid after last night's win. Uh, like I do think there's an attitude thing that Embiid has brought out on this team, which that goes beyond just like the on court thing, and that's just MVP level leadership stuff.
yeah. I mean, Tyrese mentioned it last night. He
Mhm.
said, "I think that Joel has just been a great leader this year," and I know Tyrese has only been here for 2 seasons, but to hear that from him, to compare last year to this year and say, I think Embiid has taken so much, you know, so much of a bigger role as a leader and vocally and, helping guys out. And again, it's just a testament to how great Embiid has been. And I think that is like we've talked about how Embiid, on the court has his skill wise is up there with the best of them and, has put in the work to be there. And then we talked about the next progression was film and understanding the game and manipulating the game and, telling guys where to go and moving people around. And then we've also now seen how much his leadership has grown. So like talk about a complete player, man. He really is there. And they missed him last night, but I guess not enough to lose. So they were
Yeah.
able to pull out that win. And I don't know, man. It'll be so much fun to see the rest of this season and the way that they're able to play it out. Is this the type of game, like to me, actually, and I've been in the boat of kind of just being like, play it out, see what happens in the offseason and go from there. Does this change for you? Because it kind of made me feel like they need to go do something
Yeah,
like soon.
So this is I hate how my mind like I went to bed
Yeah.
last night like the happiest I've been on a win pretty much all season with the Sixers. Like I was thrilled last night, through the moon.
Yeah.
Like that I wake up this morning and I see the new Ramona Shelburne article with all the Ben Simmons drama, and just first off, it's not unintentional that this happened today. That this happened after like arguably the Sixers' best win of the season, a statement win for the team. Where, by the way, Clutch's other client is the guy putting the Sixers on. Tyrese Maxey, another Clutch guy, is the guy like putting the Sixers over the top last night. And then to see all these like just takes, and I guess the more that Simmons camp opens their mouth, the more it's just like clear how the lack of reality that they hold. Like, I mean, a couple like the snippets, like this comment here, quote, Simmons doesn't dispute that he didn't reply when Rivers texted and called him several times over the summer asking to see him. But in hindsight, Simmons feels Rivers and the Sixers could have done more, like show up at a well-known gym in San Fernando Valley where he was training. Like, you're not answering the Sixers calls. You expect them to just fly cross country and show up to assume you're there. And it's like and then the Raptors series thing, like I get I don't know. I can't even say I get it. I'm trying to be nice about it, but it's like you can't insinuate that Joel Embiid lost that Raptors series. And I'm not saying Joel played his best basketball by far, but it's like you can nitpick and pick things out that he could have done better. Statistically, averages a little over 17 points. His efficiency splits weren't good. But if you watch that series, like you couldn't take Joel Embiid off the court. And Embiid was plus 89 in just over 237 game minutes versus Greg Monroe was minus 23 in 48 minutes, and Boban was minus 44 in 27 minutes. So it's like, if you just watch that series, like the second Embiid came off the court, he played like 45 minutes in the last game, and Greg Monroe was a minus 12 in like 2 minutes. It's like, you can't try and swing this in a way that makes Embiid look bad. And it's just like, the more I see this, it just makes them look bad in my mind. And it really just pisses me off.
It's like, I just don't really get it, man. I mean, maybe I do to a degree. Like maybe I do to a level of like they're just talking to like get the name out there. They're just talking maybe to, maybe this is kind of just an effort to just like ruin everything and just they see that happen, make it worse. Maybe he'll get traded. And you're talking about, oh, I don't know. I don't know if Morey's going to trade me. I don't know if I'll be on a different team at the deadline. Stop talking. Like just stop talking, because nothing he can say at this point, like it's only going to make things worse. Even if he said all the right things, it's just like, I don't know why they continue to open their mouth. And I don't know what that article even was, man. I was just like dumbfounded going through
Yeah.
the entire thing. And from start to finish, I was just like, why would you call out Joel Embiid? Why would you do that? Why? Like,
Yeah.
what does that help? That makes you look like an asshole. And maybe he is an asshole.
He is. I think he is.
He is an asshole. I think he is an asshole. And what is the reasoning behind that? Like, is that going to help? Does that make him feel better? Does that make Clutch Sports feel better? Like, really, it was a pity piece down to the last thing. It was just like Ben thinks like, why does he need a full apology? Like, I think the Sixers handled this poorly, and Daryl Morey has even said I could have done a better job. That is enough for them to cover their ass, to be completely honest. Like, he didn't need a whole welcome back party. He didn't need a whole, like, they were on a plane. They were literally getting on a private jet to go to Los Angeles, and he said no, and then he's gonna say they didn't try hard enough. And, like, if it was just Doc, all right, man, like, nobody likes Doc Rivers here. Like, literally, ask any fan. Nobody likes Doc Rivers. So, like, get over that. I don't know.
And
I hate
like,
it. I hate this so much.
yeah,
I just want it to be done.
I hate it too. Like, I hated everything I read in there. I hated, like,
Yeah.
every part of it was just like questioning. And I mean, like, I don't even understand. I don't understand what the jostling is. Like, there was the admittance that more it might take till after the deadline, and then there was all the, like, him showing up at the gym, him being frustrated on things, showing up on social media. It's like I just don't understand what you're trying to do, or like,
Yeah.
they brought up the point about when he was setting up like runs with a couple ex NBA guys and local guys in the area, and he was upset that it ended up on somebody's Instagram story, and it was like somebody, I think he had 3,000 followers, and it wasn't like a big deal thing, and but he was like, but just the fact that it would be known was enough for Simmons to shut down that aspect. And it's like I don't understand why you care so deeply. And also, when talking about the Sixers stuff, like, I agree there's things that they could have done slightly different, but they also didn't do anything to drive like this kind of reaction. Like, there was no like F you Ben Simmons moment in my mind. Like, sure, we kind of talked about trading you for Harden. Sure, we like kind of made some bad comments after the game, but there's never been like the alienation to the point of that. I feel like he keeps trying to twist it and make it out to be. And like, what good is this all doing? Like, I just don't get the end goal from his camp's aspect. And it's like, they brought up the, like, we don't care about money. It's like, well, maybe you should, man, because you're now $19 million down, according to Ramona Shelburne, from what you could be making this season. Just you trying to prove a point here and you trying to drive yourself somewhere else. And as far as like the Ben Simmons stuff as a whole, I feel like in his mind, he has everything that bothers him on a basketball court and from a mental aspect, like, directly correlated to Philadelphia and the Sixers. And the fact of the matter is, like, this stuff is gonna follow you wherever you go, man. And you can blame it on like it being the fans or the media or the high intensity. It's like, the bottom line is basketball, dude. And if you can't hit a free throw in a playoff here, you can't hit a free throw in a playoff in any other arena or in any other circumstance. And it's like, I just think he has everything tied to the Sixers and Philadelphia. And it's just, this is a you need to look in the mirror issue. And that's just not being addressed by anyone around him either.
Yeah. I mean, the questions surrounding the people in his camp have never stopped.
Yeah.
Kind of coming in. I mean, to talk about, I don't even want to get into it because it's not even worth it. But it seems like everyone that's in and around his family is not okay, from everything that we've heard about it. But like, I think the thing that bothered me the most was just like, oh, it was like, it's such a pain in the ass for us, one of his trainers or someone close to, oh, it's such a pain in the ass to go from this gym to lift weights and then to this gym to work out. You want to know the remedy to that? You
Yeah.
want to know how you change that? How you know how you make it a little bit more simple is that you could just play and you could work out at the Sixers gym during practice with the coaches and the trainers, and then you could, use their facility to work out and, see your nutritionist and see your trainer and get all that stuff done. Like, he wants this celebrity status. He wants to be this Los Angeles guy. He wants to be, oh, look at me, I'm Ben Simmons. I play Call of Duty. I do all these things. I'm really cool. I
Buy
have Ferraris and
NFTs.
a hot girlfriend. Like, that's what you want. But then you're going to say, oh, I don't, it's really hard for me to work out in other gyms in the area because, I'm still living in New Jersey, but I refuse to be a part of the basketball team that, I have a contract with. I've wanted from the start to find a way to be on his side. And as well as anyone else that from the beginning, I've been trying to see his side of it. This was really a turning point in the way that I view this situation. He and his camp and the people around him, I don't know how, like, I would like to know how much of this is actually him talking. That was a bullshit article.
Yeah.
And it was bullshit from start to finish and trying to make me feel bad for you on an account of you have to go play at, various gyms around the area because you can't go to the Sixers facility until 10 o'clock when everyone leaves. Like, that to me doesn't make me feel bad for you. That makes me think that that makes it worse. That pisses me off because you could be there and you are
Mhm.
here. And he said like, oh, he rushed to the facility before the end of the final preseason game, so he wouldn't get fined, and then they still fined him. It's like, how you avoid that? You show up at the beginning, and you like, I don't get
Yeah.
it. I just don't get it. And if you wanted to work things out, like I understand that there's some gripes here. I understand that he has, reality is in the eye of the beholder with him. What he sees is what he gets. But the way to figure it out, if there was any sort of actual effort to figure things out, it would have started with him coming in and talking to them or allowing them to come to him. And he didn't do that. So I don't know. I can't keep blaming the Sixers when clearly this is propaganda thrown out by Clutch and Simmons camp. It's just, I don't know. I'm just done. I'm just done with this stuff.
Yeah, it's like there's a disconnect with reality. And I guess the one thing that if this is what Simmons camp is going for, which you're not helping yourself get traded to another team if this is your goal, but I guess might help you get out of the Sixers is I agree. I just want to be done. I think the Sixers have done a phenomenal job of keeping it separate issues and just the team is who they are. Simmons is kind of doing his own thing, whatever. The team that they have is locked in and focused. We can't dodge the fact that like this team was built to have Ben Simmons on it when you look at how it's set up and just the gap
Yeah.
in the max player slot. And I just want to get guys that want to compete and fit in with this team and help. And I want to win a championship. And I want Joel to have a guy that can just help him and play. And I sent you a text. I hate getting like like I just want to focus on this team. It's all I want. And all
Yeah.
the Ben Simmons stuff just keeps overshadowing like the very good things that are happening around this Sixers team right now. But I sent you a text that just said Tyrese Maxey, what did I'm gonna read it exactly, but basically
Yeah.
Tyrese Maxey is more valuable to Philly than Ben Simmons has ever been. And no, my exact words were Tyrese Maxey means more to Philly than Ben Simmons ever has. And I totally stand by that. I mean, first off, I guess that is the one shout out to Ben Simmons due to his selfishness and due to his ridiculous holdout demands. We probably would never know that this is the Tyrese Maxey that we have. Like honestly, when you think about it, like Tyrese Maxey would not be given these minutes. Doc Rivers would still be hiding him on the bench if Ben was there. So kind of out of default, we got to see the potential greatness that we have in this kid. But just come from there's complete opposite ends of the spectrum guy. Like there's a joy, and I know you've been a big Ben Simmons guy, and I've
Yeah.
never quite felt that same connection or way about him. But like I just have a joy watching Maxey play that I never felt with Simmons. And I get they're two completely different players, but like just the heart, the drive, the passion, like I just feel all that so much more with Maxey and just give him the keys, man. Like that's my guy.
Yeah. Yeah. If like, I think the best way that I can describe it is like Maxi is like a want to. Everything that he's doing, he wants to, and he wants to be better. And Ben kind of always felt like, take me as I am.
Yeah.
This is who I am. Dude, the last sentence in this article, I highlighted it and sent it to my group chat earlier because it makes me want to vomit. It actually makes me sick to my stomach. Um, this is the actual last three sentences to this article, and if you haven't read it, please go read it. Even so, for however much he says he doesn't want to be in Philadelphia, for all the slights, real and perceived, he holds against the franchise, Simmons watches every game, a source close to him says. At the end of the day, it's still his team, and he still wants to play. Bullshit. Stop
Yeah.
lying to me. Stop lying to me, because if you wanted to, you would.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard enough girls complain about ex-boyfriends to tell me that if he wanted to, he would. I know that for a fact. It's just terrible, terrible stuff from him, and like you said, I just want it to be over. I don't know if that means that they should jump the gun and go get a different player, and a guy that can help right now. I think that's a conversation for another day because they're closing in on 40 minutes. But I don't know. It just never stops with this, and I think that this was kind of the one where just like there is nothing to that article other than just them complaining and making throwing a pity party for him, and I'm not going to do it anymore.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, I don't think anybody can legitimately look at this and believe that he wants to play for the Sixers or ever has any intentions of again. And it just is sickening. Like all the comments, like by all accounts, he's in great shape right now and all this. And it's like, but it's still mentally far away from playing. And it's like, so if it's about basketball, man, then like, why is this changing if you're gonna get traded somewhere? And there just is a disconnect. And I mean, I don't want to get too heavy into the mental health topic because that's real shit. But it is like there, to me, it's a little bit offensive if this is not what's going on, which I'm not going to directly question, but like if this is not what's going on and that's what you're calling it, like that's real shit that people deal with, that you're brushing it off as you. And it's like, if this is your excuse not to play basketball, like that's big time lame to me.
Dude, that would be a cardinal sin for me. Um, I know people personally. There's things in my life that have
Yeah.
stemmed from mental health struggles. That's fucked up.
Yeah.
If this has been a lie, or at least a ruse, or at least something that you used in order to get paid and avoid fines, that would be something that I think, like, just on a personal level, and that goes to Rich Paul too. Um, that goes, almost directly to Rich Paul. I
Yeah.
think that would be the worst of it all. And I pray to God that he's, one, healthy physically and mentally. I really hope that this is something that he's struggling. I don't hope that he's struggling. I hope that this is part of the reason that he's not playing, is that he's dealing with this stuff and that he's not using it as a way to get out of playing and a way to get into, money going back into his pocket. I'm not cool with that if that otherwise. But I don't know, man. It's
Yeah.
there's not much more to say. I think that this has been like overdone from his side, and for this, like, I think just stop talking about him. Just act like he's not there. I think that's what the players have done. Everyone else has kind of had to answer for him, but like, I think Joel and the players have done a great job of just being like, he doesn't exist. He's not here. I don't see him. I don't care about it. So maybe in the next 9 days they find a way to add a player that wants to be here, add a player that would help in the spots that they're missing. But I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree. I hope the trade is done. I mean, I'm not optimistic that it will be, but I guess to end like on a positive, like the Ben Simmons drama shouldn't take away from the great things that are going on with the Sixers. Like a half game out of first place. What's the winning streak now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 game winning streak. Yeah. Right in the mix. You can't ask for a better spot as a team right now. And I mean, they're clicking. So if we can get a couple guys that are difference maker, if they can find a way to make it work, I get the never wanting to take pennies on a dollar, but like 75 cents on a dollar doesn't look awful to me.
Yeah, I think I'm starting to get on board with that, at least right now. But there's gonna be a lot. There's gonna be a lot going on. Definitely stay tuned here. We're gonna be talking about. I think that could be something we talk about on Thursday. A
Yeah.
good amount is what they might do in the next week or so, because I think that even if there isn't a blockbuster trade, I do think that they
That'd be
could make some
something.
moves. I think Daryl Morey really wants to. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. But we're going to run out of time here today. We've been on for over 40 minutes. So a good one from us. You got a lot of content today, but you can follow Sean on Twitter for more content from him at Sean_Bernard1. Follow me at JSPrain17. Follow the pod at PickSwapPod. Check us out on the YouTube and anywhere you get your podcast. And we'll talk to you guys later in the week.